Photoshop, developed on February 19, 1990, has become one of the best tools for altering and creating images. Of course, this is not all you can do. You can also draw and paint. Here's some pictures that Ezra has done in Photoshop. Today, I will be going over how you can alter and create images. Opening up a blank canvas here, we can do many things with it. You will have your tools to the left that are available at your disposal that have many tools. Personally, I like to stick down here with the Photoshop tabs and altering images. Originally, I planned on going over many of the Photoshop tools, but then I realized there was an issue with this. Some of them aren't that useful and aren't that interesting. So I decided to go with the tools that I think are the most useful for the most amount of people. Next tool I want to showcase is the clone stamp tool. The clone stamp tool is pretty complicated, but basically, as shown in the definition here, it's basically taking pixels from another part of the image. Now, you wouldn't think it's that useful at first, but there are some uses you can use with it. How you use a clone stamp is you press Alt and you click on something you want. We'll say there, we'll make this a bit smaller. And how it's useful is you can basically, my face, say I don't want the things on my face here, I can basically take some other part of my skin like this and make it look a whole lot nicer. A lot more cleaner than the original image I had. Text is very useful if you're trying to convey a message or trying to show something. How you can make text look better is you go text, you click down on the FX down here, go to blending options, and there's a whole lot of things you can do. I have some presets with the drop shadow, stroke, color overlay, to make it really just stand out. Now, click the three simple things by showing a border, a background shadow, and changing the color of the text to stand more out. I simply did this by selecting stroke, the borderline outline of the text, drop shadow, give it a nice 3D look, and color overlay to make it stand out better. Another nifty thing you can do is if you don't like the word you have and you want to type something else, you can just simply go like that and it will change it for you while keeping all the other presets you selected. What I'm going to go over is the filters. Now, note there are filters down here. When you go up top, you get filters, and there's filter gallery. Now, why they did this is very weird. Basically, you have a bunch of filters here, but if you click on filter gallery, more will pop up, and you have more. Why they didn't combine these together? Very weird. Now, this isn't too hard to use, but it's very cool. You can select a variety of filters as indicated to make your image look however you want. I'll say you can make people look pretty interesting. That's the filter gallery. Now we're going to go down to here. One filter I use a lot is blur. Blur is really interesting because you can blur out part of an image you want. We'll say I want the back and I really want to indicate on this middle part. Now we have the middle part that's all blurred out. There's a bunch of other filters here that do similar to the blur. We have other filters down here, like we can go to distort and do twirl. And then we can basically just twirl the image however we want. Next, we have a picture of Andy. Now, why we have this is because we're going to go up to top here, go to Edit, and we're going to go to Free Transform. Free Transform is so nice because you can freely move an image however you want. If you want to resize it or it's too big or too small for your liking. Then you can right-click and you have a whole bunch of options here. I'll start at the bottom. You can flip horizontally or vertically if you want the image to face another way than you originally liked it. You also have the rotate degrees, which does the same as the flip horizontally and vertically, but a little different. Then we have these. Now, the main ones I'm going to go with are rotate and scale. Rotate basically rotates the image. Scale basically makes it bigger or smaller. And these skew, perspective, and distort are kind of interesting because they're not too useful, but they can make an image look very interesting or funny. You have an image tab. I think the most useful one here is adjustments. You can change like the saturation if you want. This kind of goes with the liquidator tool. Make Andy green, whatever kind of colors I want. And if I want green, but I don't like the green, I can make it a little brighter, darker, and change the lightness. This is not too useful, but it's kind of cool to have. Another simple, easy thing is if you want to make an image black and white, go to adjustments, boom, simple black and white. You can mess with these if you want, change to black and white. But basically a simple way to make an image black or white. As shown, subject, very useful if you want to kind of copy your subject. You go here, if I just want to remove the background, I can do Control J, get rid of that, boom. Not the best job. Normally you would just fix it up a bit, but simple way to get rid of the background. Now the last thing I have is with the image. The image itself. There's not much I usually use over here. You can go opacity if you want to kind of make an image lighter or darker, but most in general, none of these aren't used. You can right click, do a lot with these. Mostly I just use these if I want to make a 3D image. Like you can create a 3D workspace, and you can do a lot with this. Mainly I use 3D workspace to create text. Here's an example of a Thanksgiving 3D text I created. Note that it does take some time to render the text into Photoshop. That's all I have for my Photoshop final project, and thank you for taking your time to listen to me.